Hey guys, Trae Hall from the debate channel here, and I just wanted to do a quick show tonight to talk about some of the stuff that went on today in the Senate, because it was kind of a big deal. Will couldn't be here. He was sick. He's probably still sick, and we didn't wanna risk it. So, but the show must go on. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the vote in the Senate today because it was kind of a big deal. There was a little confusion on my part at first because I thought that it was the actual repeal vote and not just to open the debate on it. So I was a little scared at first, but then I realized still not good, but at least it wasn't fully repealed. But we'll get right into the article. This is from the Associated Press in Washington. Senate opens Obamacare debate at last, but outcome in doubt. Prodded by President Donald Trump, a bitterly divided Senate voted last Tuesday to move forward with the Republicans' long-promised legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. There was high drama as Senator McCain returned to the Capitol for the first time after being diagnosed with brain cancer to cast a decisive yes vote. The final tally was 51-50, with Vice President Mike Pence breaking the tie after two Republicans joined all 48 Democrats in voting no. I took a little bit to watch some of the votes come in, and it was a little stressful, because you don't want Obamacare to be repealed. That would be very, very bad. There were two Republicans that joined them, and for a while I thought it was gonna not pass, but it sadly did. Senator John McCain gave a passionate speech about the need for senators to reach across the aisle and cooperate in his first speech on the floor since being diagnosed with brain cancer. I did watch the speech afterwards. It was a pretty good speech. There were parts that I didn't necessarily agree with, and there were parts that were definitely true. So, I always thought John McCain was kind of good at giving speeches anyway, because some senators are and some senators aren't. With all senators in their seats and protesters agitating outside and briefly inside the chamber, the vote was held open at length before McCain, 80, entered the chamber. Greeted by cheers, he smiled and dispensed hugs, but the scars from his recent surgery were starkly visible on the left side of his face. Despite voting yes, he took a lecturing tone afterward and hardly saw success assured for the legislation after 2 weeks of misfires, even after Tuesday's victory for Trump and Republican leader Mitch McConnell. No doubt, Trump is going to parade this around all the time with his tweets, saying that it was bigly win. We knew we had it all along. I'm terrific. The bill's terrific. Everybody knows it. Looks like we have a quote here too. If the process ends in failure, which seems likely, then let's return to regular order, McCain said as he chided Republican leaders for devising the legislation in secret along with the administration and springing it on skeptical members. That's where I agree. One of the parts I agree with McCain on is that if you're gonna craft a bill that is this large and affects this many millions of Americans, you better do it in public first off. And it's also not very good. There's the other part. But you better do it in public. They did this for I don't know how many days or weeks behind closed doors. Nobody saw it except for a handful of senators and the administration. I have a definite problem with that. That's not how you lead. That's not how you govern. So that's just ridiculous. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio, TV, and internet, as I say this on a show on the internet. To hell with them, McCain said, raising his voice as he urged senators to reach for the comedy of earlier times. I might have mispronounced that word, I don't know. I agree with McCain a little bit on that. Not all. shows on the radio, TV, and internet are bombastic loudmouths. Example, this one. But he definitely has a point. Radio, Rush Limbaugh. TV, Fox News. Internet, Alex Jones. Definitely bombastic loudmouths. So, to hell with them, to quote John McCain. That's a part where he's at least a little bit correct. At most, very correct. At the White House, though, Trump wasted no time declaring a win and slamming the Democrats anew. I'm very happy to announce that with 0 of the Democrats' votes, the motion to proceed on health care has just passed, and now we move forward toward truly great health care for the American people, Trump said. This was a big step. I want to thank Senator John McCain, a very brave man. Interesting, Mr. President, you said that you like people that weren't captured. But that's a little side bit there. Anyway. Trump continued to celebrate the vote at a rally in Youngstown, Ohio that doubled as a victory lap. I don't get it why he already won the presidency. Not the popular vote, but he won the presidency. I don't get why he still does these rallies, like he's still campaigning. It's not a big deal anyway, I guess. We're now one step closer to liberating our citizens from this Obamacare nightmare and delivering great health care for the American people, he said. At its most basic, the Republican legislation is aimed at undoing Obamacare's unpopular mandates for most people to carry insurance and businesses to offer it. The GOP would repeal Obamacare taxes and unwind an expansion of the Medicaid program for the poor, the disabled, and nursing home residents. The result would be 20 million to 30 million people losing insurance over a decade, depending on the version of the bill. That is atrocious. First off, we should be expanding Medicaid, not cutting it. We should be going towards Medicaid for all scenario, to where you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. Apparently, the Republicans do not share that. The GOP legislation has polled abysmally. I think it's like 17%, something like that. That number might not be completely correct, but it's somewhere in that range. While Obamacare itself has grown steadily more popular. Yet most Republicans argue that failing to deliver on their promises to pass a repeal and replace legislation would be worse than passing an unpopular bill, because it would expose the GOP as unable to govern despite controlling majorities in the House, the Senate, and the White House. GOP, you did that to yourself. You backed yourself into a corner of saying we have to repeal Obamacare. If you would have just said fix Obamacare, you would not have had this problem. So you did that one to yourself. Tuesday's vote amounted to a procedural hurdle for legislation whose final form is impossible to predict under the Senate's Byzantine amendment process, which will unfold over the next several days. My number one hope is that Democrats just bombard this with single-payer amendments and just screw with them a little bit at this point, because we need Medicare for all. Single-payer system. Indeed, senators had no clear idea of what they would immediately be voting on, and in an indication of the uncertainty ahead, McConnell said the Senate would let the voting take us where it will. The expectation is that it will bring up a series of amendments, including a straight-up repeal and fuller replacement legislation, to see where consensus may lie. If you're gonna repeal Obamacare, at least replace it. I don't know why, but their new thing is to just say we're just gonna repeal it, and then somewhere down the road we'll replace it with something probably pretty bad, while a lot of you die. So just take that into consideration. Yet after 7 years of empty promises and weeks of hand-wringing and false starts on Capitol Hill, It was the Senate's first concrete step towards delivering innumerable pledges to undo former President Barack Obama's law. It came after several near-death experiences for earlier versions of the legislation, and only after Trump summoned senators to the White House last week to order them to try again after McConnell had essentially conceded defeat. The people who sent us here expect us to begin this debate to have the courage to tackling the tough issues, McConnell said ahead of this vote. So, that's a little bit where we lie currently. Not a full repeal yet, but on the way to. So, for now, that's what I'm going to say on that. Debate channel. Like, subscribe, comment if you want, and for sure share this to your friends because we need to grow the channel, get our message out there. Thank you.